what we feel, some explosive playmaking ability on both sides, and you know, we'll see what happens as the season kind of bears out.
Have you seen the things you were hoping to see though from those guys through fall camp?
Yeah, absolutely, and
Other than high school.
by no means is it a statement against anybody that's here. It's a statement of the competition at positions. You know, I've often said I'd like to be able to redshirt every single freshman we have, and you know, to develop for the future. So, but at the same time, you know, if they're ready to go, they're going to play valuable reps. You know, I'm not going to let it happen that, you know, some guy plays, you know, 9, 10 reps in a season and then you blow the guy's ability to gain that year. You know, if they play, they'll play significant roles.
Last year you guaranteed after the showdown, you guaranteed a win in this year's showdown.
Oh, I did?
4 days out.
Boy, I tell you what, you've got a snap memory.
Are you just as confident now that you're 4 days out?
Yeah, I'm confident every time we go play. It doesn't matter who we play. I mean, the one thing that I believe is you don't go into a game thinking you're going to lose. And look, they're a Pac-12 team. They've got better resources. They've got more money. They recruit top players. I get all that. But at the same time, it doesn't matter who we play. It has nothing to do with the opponent. You know, I thought we were going to go and still feel like we should have gone in and played and beat Alabama. That's the mindset. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And it doesn't really ever matter about who. It matters about what we do. And we got to take care of business against a team that, you know, has all the advantages. So that's the way it works.
How do you feel you stack up talent-wise against them? Obviously, they're a Pac-12, but they're a Pac-12 that's been struggling for a few years. You've kind of got something going here.
And we're a Mountain West have probably been struggling for a few years too. So, but at the same time, you know, I like our team. I like our guys. You know, I feel like no matter what game it is that you play in, you go out and compete to the best of your ability and go out to win that play. Whatever that play is, go win it. And, you know, like I said, guys, I'm not a guy that has a countdown clock to a game. The game comes, okay? It's your preparation is what you do year-round to prepare yourself to go into battle. And, you know, our guys have done a good job of preparing. Now we get to go test ourselves against an opponent and find out where we're at. And, you know, that's kind of how I think we should all approach whatever the situation that comes up in life is. You never go in with a defeatist attitude, but you go in prepared and be ready to compete.
You've openly talked the last week or so, and even right now, about the difference between, quote, Pac-12 talent and Mountain West talent. With that vote coming up about the Power 5 conference autonomy and all that, do you have to walk a fine line here in kind of admitting that gap exists?
Well, you know, and here comes the pizza, by the way. That's awesome. Thanks, Stu. Make sure they get some before you eat it all. But, you know, guys, there's going to be a separation. You know, we don't have the television contract in our league to allow us to pay the players all that they can get at those Power 5 conferences. Therefore, if you're sitting in a living room of a kid that quite honestly can gain financially to go somewhere, you're probably not going to get them, which puts our job into the evaluation phase and the development phase even to a bigger, you know, a bigger cause for us to maintain equal grounds. And, you know, look, it's the cards you're dealt. I by no means look at it as a hindrance. I look at it as a challenge. And we're just going to keep working and working and working to make sure that we're relevant.
Can you compete with a Colorado?
You know, yeah, there's no doubt. Colorado State University is an outstanding place. It's got excellence throughout, not just athletics. I'm talking about academics, the things that we do for students here, the kind of students that we turn out. our administration, everything. And, I look at it as the two state schools getting an opportunity to go play each other, and that's the way it should be.
Coach, this being an in-state rivalry and the first game, what's your message to the team this week to let them know it's the first game, but it's an in-state game at the same time? What's your message this week to them?
I think really the outside publicity maybe put on it, your team knows. The way we kind of handle things is we don't get caught up in, we've got to work on who we are and what we do, and then you go and prepare to go play the game against an opponent. Sometimes if you get caught up in this, then all of a sudden you don't think clearly, you let the clutter come in and you don't focus on the task at hand, which is winning that play and doing it at the best of your ability. So I think it's great. I love it. I think that's the way it should be. And but our team can't get caught up in this. The excitement will be there, and that's what makes it fun.
And since day one, you've talked about it's a process here. Is winning this first game part of that process that you feel that this contributes to this process?
Yeah, and I think winning every game is the process. And what I think gets lost sometimes, I think, when teams kind of are doing this, they get here for a game and then all of a sudden they drop it. That's the idea is it's the most important game we play because it's the next game. It's that simple. And to break it down into that for your guys, and look, something's going to happen. We don't get participation badges, all right, by playing this game, all right? But then again, guess what? The following week, and that next day, believe it or not, the sun does come up, okay, somewhere, right? And you've got to prepare yourself to go now into battle the next week. So that's got to be the mindset within your program, and part of the process is understanding it's never about them. It's about us.
Does that ring true for you even when you go back and look at last year's game? Because the two big plays that they hit with the one guy that you guys said you didn't want to lose track of.
Yeah.
It wasn't really great athleticism on his part. It was he just got lost in the shuffle somehow.
They didn't get lost in the shuffle. He got really open.
Yeah.
and when you let the fastest guy in the state of Colorado get open like that, not good things happen. And then when you fumble a ball and give them, a score, when you do things within the scheme, whether they be the 7 drops that we had, okay, whether they be the couple of the penalties that were just unforced errors, those are the things you kind of look at, and yet, you know what, they took it to us and won the game, and we had to get ready to go play next week. So,
with that in mind, though, do you think your team's a smarter team this year, more apt to not hurt itself in the process?
I think as we played out, the season played out last year, I thought, a lot of those deficiencies we ended up kind of using to our advantage. And, I'm excited about it. Guys, you get an opportunity to go out and compete. And, I know our guys are excited to go play. I mean, they're tired of playing against each other. And, it'll be fun to see and measure where we're at as a program at this juncture. And
this is your third showdown. You've talked in the past about Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, Louisville. There's 2 different leagues, neutral site.
Montana State, Montana.
Yeah.
Eastern Washington, Idaho, believe it or not, at one time. We just had to make that up because we had no rivals.
How do you feel about this rivalry now, especially after having 2 years?
Well, I think it's getting to where it should be again. I think Coach McIntyre's done a fantastic job there in what they have done, to elevate where it's got to be. And for them, it's a must-win game. I mean, it's a must-win game. And, you know, for us, I mean, yeah, it's a must-win game, but you know what? We got to get ready to go play a game after it. But I know how it's looked on in the state, and, you know, I kind of like it that way. And, you know, our little guys will show up and we'll go play the game. And you know, I'm excited about the opportunity.
You still hate Idaho?
Never did hate them. Now, you know, because they used to put it on us pretty good.
Jim, do you feel like this game is getting, at least the way the players are used to Iron Bowl, and there's attitude and there's chickiness on both sides? Is that good for a rivalry? Would it be good? I'm not saying cheap shots, but just guys getting a little fired up in each other's faces.
Well, you know, I always kind of look at the guys that lose control, probably hurting their team. You know, I talk to our guys every day, you know, look, let your playing between the whistles happen. I personally am not big on all this, you know, smack talk stuff. If that makes you have to be, you know, I guess show you who you are. I mean, go play the game, you know, and maybe that's growing up in Montana where you might end up in an alley sometime. The talk doesn't matter. Somebody's going to come out, right? And it has nothing to do with how much you can flap your jaws and pump your chest and jump up and down. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So.
Have you noticed, I mean, coming from your first showdown here to this being your third, that the mindset of the guys has become, we want to beat CU, we expect to beat CU? Is there any shift?
Well, I think, you know, the mindset is we expect to have a great day of practice today. That's the expectation, because when you do that, then the game itself becomes easier. Is that not that it's, you know, it's hard, man. Every play is a, you know, a battle. Guys are going 100%, right? But it isn't about, you know, talking about it. It isn't about, you know, I'm going to do this rep to beat that team. You should do that rep to make yourself better and your team better, right? And so maybe I got it all wrong. I just think that the investment in yourself and what you do on a daily basis is what's going to help you be successful in a game and eventually in life. And that's what we're trying to teach here.
You mentioned earlier you think one of your strengths is on the outside. You're going to face a pretty good corner.
Really good,
Anderson.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about him and just how good a test that will be for some of these young guys coming out?
Well, I look at it, you know, we're going to have some guys playing a game that this is going to be the first time going against somebody else that obviously has a little swagger, has a little playmaking ability to them, and you know they've got to be able to overcome the bright lights in the first time, and just go do what they're taught, and then learn from it on the next day.
What are your impressions? What do you like about Henderson's game?
I like the fact that the guy competes when the ball's in the air. You know, I like those guys that play the game hard and compete every down. And you know, those are the things when you watch film. You know, their linebacker 44. I mean, the guy is playing as a young guy. Shoot, he plays. You know, when they play man free a couple times, he's playing free safety. You know, I mean, that's kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? And you know, they've got some guys up and down, obviously. You know, size of their quarterback and what he was able to do and the comfort of what they do offensively is going to give us issues. And yet, you know what, we got to worry about ourselves and move forward.
You mentioned earlier during practice, you know, them going speed, you know, they're trying to go more up tempo. Considering what the Mountain West did last year, is your defense, I mean, you averaged in the Mountain West more plays per game than any other conference.
Right.
Is your defense set for that now? Do you feel better because you face it so often?
Well, I think it just, guys, I think it's become the norm. You know what I mean? It's what you have to do. So it's about adapting to your environment. I mean, no matter where we move to, no matter where we go, no matter, you know, what part of town you're in, you have to adapt to your environment. And in this case, defenses today have adapted to that environment, which is the fast pace. Whether it helps you or not, anymore, that's just how you got to practice, because so many teams are doing it.
You were kind of channeling a little Sonny Lubick there. We're going to take our little old team down there and go beat them.
Is that what Sonny did?
That's how he used to phrase the game. Are you okay approaching it that way?
Is that what? I guarantee you, I've never been compared to those two legends. But at the same time, I don't. That's.
That is how a lot of people perceive the game. But
Yeah.
you, as a program, perceive it that way.
I think we're the greatest program in America. I think this is the greatest university in America. And we've got nothing to hang our heads about. And we've got nothing to stand, take a second seat to anybody. If you go through life trying to take second seat to somebody, pretty good chance you're not going to be successful. So it doesn't matter who you're playing. And, I feel pretty good about our place. I don't feel pretty good. I feel real good. I feel real good that we're at Colorado State University. We've got nothing to take a back seat to anybody.
I mean, would you view it as an upset if you guys win?
I don't think it's ever an upset, because you should expect to win. I don't look at, when I go in and take a test when I was in college, right? Getting an A was not an upset. It was because I prepared to go get an A. All right? That's the expectation.
But is it fun to play along with other people's expectations? Like you said, you're the little guys or whatever. That's a perception some people have.
Well, shoot, they're a Pac-12 team. They've got all the stuff that we don't have. All right? So we're going to use that as an excuse? No. We're going to do what we do and go out and play the game. And, if we got a bunch of guys that refuse to get out of the huddle or get out of the tunnel, then we're going to be in trouble. Okay? But I think our guys will walk out of the tunnel and go see what happens. And that's, I'm going to say this again. The expectation that we have is put upon ourselves because of how we prepare to go play a game.
You mentioned their quarterback. I'm sure you watched his progression through
Yeah.
tape. What impressed you most as he grew up?
I think his versatility and the things that he can give you as what do we call them now? Dual threats? Is that what the key word is? Dual threats? I like that, dual threat. That's good, because the guy can beat you with his feet and he can beat you with his arm. They put some weapons around him that enable him to be successful, and the guy's a good player.
Was there any one aspect of his game where you thought he got better as you watched him?
I think his command of their offense and what they were trying to accomplish, you can just see that as it kind of progresses through the season. Understanding the parts around it too. I mean, that's part of playing the position, is knowing the parts that you have. It's kind of like putting tools in your toolbox and pulling out the right tool for the job. I'm trying to screw a board into a wall and I'm using a hammer. That ain't good. Use a screwdriver or the drill. That helps.
Last year they beat you guys. They kind of hung their hat on that. You guys, your team improved throughout the season, it seemed like. How do you get them to come out and play and win this game? Is it all about the preparation, like you said, and can you grade the preparation leading up to this game compared to the last 2 years?
That's a good question. We don't change our approach. We obviously need to get off to a fast start. I feel like we, have dug ourselves some holes early in the year. Both years that I've been here, and yet I'm proud the way we've learned from those things, as the season went on. So for us, I think it's not to be wowed by the environment or the magnitude of the event, but rather, you know, guys, let's just go do what we do and play the game. Go from there.
Is it good or bad that there isn't the enmity between these two programs that there is for Auburn, Alabama?
Well, you know, as I've said, Taryn, I think you were here when. I mean, I'm not sure that one that I came from was healthy. I mean, there were some deep-rooted things that go a long ways on that one, and yet to the two teams, they were two teams out there competing, and at the end of the day, they shook each other's hands and had respect for what each other do. I think sometimes the periphery gets carried away in the rivalry. I know our guys have a ton of respect for, you know, what they do up there, and they know a lot of the players. Shoot, we've tried to recruit a lot of those players that they've gotten, so, you know, there's familiarity that way. And so I think at the end of the day, you know, you shake each other's hands, and it's as I believe, I think both schools, and I truly believe this, we need to elevate our programs to the point that college football becomes, in a pro sport area, you know, becomes relevant again. And that's what we're both headed to do.
So you're sort of in it together?
I think we are. I think we're in it together to elevate high school football in this state. Because, you know, the high school, the next step, high school, college, you know, then the NFL. And I think both of us getting better, which I see both programs doing, is something that's going to be good not only for the specific universities, but really in the big picture for the state of Colorado and the Rocky Mountain region in general. All right?
Would you prefer to play this game, especially considering some of the young guys who go play, in an afternoon instead of at night under the lights when it seems things get amplified a little bit more?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, my personal, there was nothing like the Big Ten. I mean, you played at noon, unless you had the 3:30 game, and you were back on your on the back deck by 5 o'clock, and even on a road game, it was only an hour and 10-minute flight, I think was the longest, yeah. And you were back, you know, back home by 5 o'clock. No, you know, I don't like sitting around all day, you know, I mean, just personally, but I don't play the game, so.
Going into Vinny last year and doing what you guys did that kind of help take any excuses for environment away? I mean, moving forward?
Yeah, I would think, you know, I mean, I mean, that was pretty cool, walking in front of 102,000 plus, and especially when they're throwing stuff at you and booing you. I expect this to at least be, you know, hopefully 50-50 in the stadium. We get a few cheers going in, but no, I don't think the environment part should be any, you know, one way or the other. So.
You make a big deal about the rivalry trophies. This was the one you didn't get last year.
Mm-hmm.
How, when you watch CU's players take that thing and celebrate post game, what was going through your head, and is that something you share with your team?
Well, it's obviously a disappointment, and yet, you know, it's one of those deals where, like I said, we don't get a participation ribbon. You know, we're playing for something, and I think that's cool. And the fact we get to play for 3 of them throughout the year, I think that's awesome. And so this is one of those that there again, it carries a little bit extra maybe because it is a trophy game. And just like when we were at Michigan State and played Indiana for the brass spittoon, man, that was cool, man. Played Notre Dame for the megaphone. That was pretty cool. And you wanted to have those in your trophy case. All right? Thanks, guys.
Max, just as somebody who grew up in Colorado, has now played in several of these games, what's this game mean to you?
The CU-CSU game's a good opportunity to just establish ourselves as a football school in the state. Just like the Air Force game and locally the Wyoming game is for us. It's a pride thing because these are guys that we obviously knew from high school and stuff like that. So being from Colorado, it's a big pride thing for me.
You have friends on CU's team, and are you in contact with them?
No, I can't say that I do. I know of some of the guys just from high school ball and like all-state teams and some of that and things like that, but I don't keep in touch with any of them.
Does the size of this game take on any different meaning for you, for those of you who played down at Alabama last year? Does this game not quite seem as big when you've been in an environment like that?
Well, when you're trying to win football games, every game's big. And like we learned last year from our little bit of a slow start, you can't overlook any game. And down the stretch, one win could mean the difference between going to a bowl game or not. Like last year, we were sweating a little bit at the end when that necessarily didn't need to be the case.
How do you guys start? Quicker, is that playing on you guys this year? The fact that you did not do as well in the first half of the season, and you're thinking about that this year?
Yeah, it's definitely been an emphasis throughout camp and through spring ball of just starting fast. And we use it every day at practice, is just having your mind right as soon as you step out on that field. And we'll have a period, usually very early on in practice, that's ones-on-ones, pretty competitive period.
Max, the perception's always been that Colorado, because they're in the Pac-12, before that the Big 12, that they have better athletes, they obviously have more resources, etc. Do you believe that's actually true these days?
Coach Mack's done a great job of bringing in athletes here. And this freshman class especially, there's some very talented kids and some freak athletes and some guys that I think compete with the best of them. So more now than ever, I don't think that's true.
You feel like you've got enough talent to go toe-to-toe with them and not be facing some kind of David versus Goliath type thing?
Yeah, we have enough talent to go toe-to-toe with anybody, I believe.
When you go back and you look at last year's game, does it still burn a little bit that was mistakes that you guys made that cost you more than things that they did?
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the positives that we can take out of that situation is knowing that those are things that we can do, and it's not a fact that it's anything they did, and that it was a lack of communication on my part or a lack of contained rush or whatever the case may have been. That they're all things that we've been working on and hopefully can not happen again.
It feels like you're better equipped. I guess, better equipped mentally as a team to not let a Paul Richardson kind of run free, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just with the experience we have coming back, guys know the defense a lot better, and our communication's a lot better. It's a lot faster. If they were to try to pick up the tempo on us or things like that, we're very prepared.
You talked about this freshman class coming in. Coach talked a lot about one of the things that this team had to do was go out and get more explosive playmakers on both sides of the ball. Do you see that? Do you see more of those guys when you look at the Deontay Gaines, Kevin Nuts, Preston Hodgett, different names he popped out? Do you see that there's just some more explosiveness, more guys that can really make big plays for you this year?
Yeah, for sure. They're very aggressive players. The guys you named off are perfect examples. They've done a great job of coming in, and it's like they're returners. They've picked up the offensive defense very well, and you're not seeing that trail and the learning curve that usually comes of someone new in the program.
Is that pushing, you think, the guys that are back to more?
Yeah, for sure.
All of you that are returning, when you see guys like that coming up, you don't want to lose. Maybe it's just your spot on a kickoff team. Maybe it's not even your starting spot, but it's somewhere else that guys are being pushed a little bit harder.
Yeah, for sure. It helps everybody. It picks the tempo up for everybody and makes it a lot more competitive, which is good for our program.
We talked a little bit. This game is obviously important for the in-state part of it, but because the last 2 years you guys as a program started off slow, does that put a little bit more added emphasis on this game to get off to that fast start, to not be 1-3, the first quarter of the way through the season?
Yeah, for sure. And you talk to any program across the country, that's going to be the case. Week 1 is a little bit difficult compared to the other weeks because they've had a whole off season to do something different. So you have expectations of what you think you're going to see, but that's not necessarily what it's going to be. So the beginning of the year is always a little bit different and a little bit rough, but we like to think that we've done enough to prepare ourselves to put ourselves in a good situation to win some ball games.
Max, you went through kind of the same type of knee thing that Corey's doing this year. You were obviously able to play in the opener. How far back do you see him? Do you think he's ready to go? Do you think he's all the way back yet, or is it still kind of a wait and see?
As far as I know, that's a decision up to the coaches and the trainers. But Corey's been doing everything he can to get back on the field. Like you talked about, it's something I went through last year, and he's doing as much, if not more, than I did last year to get back on the field. So there's no doubt in my mind that Corey's doing everything he can to get back.
Did you feel limited at all that first game because of maybe missing so much of the fall camp or not?
Luckily for me, I was able to be on the practice field and take a lot of mental reps, which is big for me. But no, I'm not going to say I was. I didn't feel limited at all.
The showdown?
You know, I'm doing everything I can to get back on the field. And, you know, we'll, after practice, talk to the doctors. We'll see. We'll take the best step. But right now it's in God's hands. So.
Do you have any friends on CU?
Excuse me?
Do you have any friends on CU's roster? And have you heard from them, communicating with them?
No, sir, I have not. You know, because we've been in camp, so it's been all about us for the last 3 weeks. So, yeah, I haven't communicated with anybody about the game.
Do you have any friends on that team?
No, sir, I do not.
Does it still hurt to go back and look at last year's game, the loss, knowing there were a lot of things that you guys as a team could have done to change the outcome?
You know, I've reviewed that film many times from last year till now, and it just comes down to it's all about us executing. You know, I don't feel like we got physically beat up. I feel like it was just us not executing our plays.
Growing up in the state, when you hear the Rocky Mountain Showdown in this rivalry, what do you think? I see a smile on your face. What's your first thoughts when you think of this rivalry? What's it mean to you?
Oh man, it means a lot. You know, I was a young kid growing up watching the showdown, watching guys like Sperry, like Gartrell, Johnson, and even before them. So I'm just blessed to be in the position to actually play in this game.
You look at looking at your depth chart, and you got Nolan Peralta playing at one of the tight ends. How has he done in that transition from offense or from defense as a linebacker to a tight end?
Nolan Peralta is a guy where I'm sure you can put him anywhere on the field and he's going to succeed. Just the kind of person he is, the kind of hard worker, work ethic. He knows all of this stuff, and he's just very aggressive, very physical guy. So it's really nice lining up to somebody who knows exactly what they're going to do, and you know how they're going to approach the game. So he's been the transition was smooth for him.
Does the way last year's game play out give you a little bit more drive for this year's game?
I'm not focused on last year's game anymore. You know, you put that to bed. You learn from the mistakes, and now it's all for the future. It's all going forward. It's all about how we're going to approach this game this year.
Do you guys feel like you proved that later on as the way that you guys finished your season, that you did learn from those early season mistakes that cost you some games, and that you're better equipped to handle adversity, I guess?
Yeah, you know, early in the season we had adversity hit, and we lost a couple games, you know, by a few points. We were up in the fourth quarter in mostly all of our games early in the season. But once everything clicked, once everything came together, and you know, then I felt like we started building as a whole unit. So I think we have learned from our past mistakes, and we are continue to build.
All those years that you watched the showdown, when CSU would win, did you feel it was an upset? And do you have a different perspective on that now? I mean, do you feel that this program matches up with CU's player by player?
Player by player, I feel like this program not only matches up to them, but in a lot of positions are better than CU player by player. And you know, I just remember the game when CSU went to Boulder to play, and at the time I was getting recruited by both schools. And when CSU went down to Boulder to play, and it wasn't an upset at all. It just physically dominated them. So yeah, I've never felt like CSU was the little brother in this rivalry.
But you hear that perception out there. You try to correct people when you hear them say it?
Yeah, I really don't pay attention to the outside perception. You know, it's about the guys in the locker room, and you know, we all know who we are. We all know what we have. Outside perception is, yeah.
Did you hear from CU in the recruiting process?
Yes, sir.
How did that go, and why do you end up here?
Went good, but I ended up here because it was the right place for me.
How come?
Oh, excuse me?
Why was this the right place for you?
You know, it was just the coaching staff, everything. It just clicked. Like Fort Collins, it just felt better.
Do you feel like you know, you're I think much more of a unknown quantity at this time last year. You had a good year last year. Do you feel a little bit bigger target on going back, and do you
sir.
carry that responsibility a little bit more this year, knowing that you're expected to? What do you want the guys?
No, sir. You know, the way I approach everything, I don't, like I said, I don't worry about what the outside people think about if I have pressure, if I have this responsibility or not. You know, I'm Kevon Curry. I'm going to play how I play. I'm going to contribute to my team in any way I can. So that's the way I approach it every season, every year, every game. So.
You said you remember watching Corey, another Pueblo kid playing in this rivalry. Do you remember that 07 game where he had the 3 touchdowns? Is that something you kind of want to follow suit with?
You know, Corey Sperry, he's a great player, and you know, coming through high school, I've heard, oh, next Corey Sperry, next blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. You know, he's the one and only Corey Sperry, so I'm not trying to necessarily follow after his footsteps, but our whole town, he did show our whole town in Pueblo that it's possible to, you know, to do great things, even coming from a small town, not highly recruited. So.
I know you said you don't try to look back on last year's game, but was there the one thing when they grabbed that trophy? Did you think about that when you watched them grab that Centennial Cup that you guys had held the previous year? Was there anything that went through your mind about that?
No, sir. You know, I feel like last year, well, we were prepared. I feel like we fought hard, you know, and I feel like my team, you know, we left it all out on the field. So it's not really much to hang your heads on. You know, we played hard, we left it all on the field, we left healthy, so it was a lot to be thankful for.
How important is a fast start for this team this year, given that not only do you have this game, but then you go to Boise for one of maybe your toughest Mountain West Conference games the very next week?
Yeah, you know, starting fast, and especially, you know, with Boise coming up, and then see those are 2 big games, and you know, I think it'll be big to get off to a fast start and click right away.
Do you think this team is equipped to start fast, unlike what's happened the last 2 years, where it's kind of taken a little while to get on a roll?
Yes, sir. Because I feel like we finally realize the importance of starting fast and being good early.
Anything else for Kevon? Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Kevon.
Thank you, guys.